Alright guys, we got another project. We got to replace these busted Rubicon Express shocks on the Jeep XJ here. Here we go. Got it on some ramps. We probably didn't need the ramps, but better safe than sorry. Here is the FAPO P3 8-way adjustable shocks here. And they got, the reviews or what I see online is not good, but they have to be better than shocks that are busted. These are the Rubicon Expresses, and yeah, they have no dampening whatsoever anymore. You can see the bushing on the bottom is even rotted out. All right, so that's an 18 millimeter, and those look smaller up there, so we'll see what size those are. But let's get these 18 millimeters off the bottom first. All right, we got the 217 bolts off, and those bolts up there are 13 millimeters. We're gonna pull those off next. Out with the old and with the new. There's like no resistance on that old Rubicon Express shock, so it's gonna be weird having suspension on this. Right, so for these two bolts in here that hold the top part in, they are loose spinning until you put a box wrench through this area. It's a 13-inch. You have to get the 13-inch on top of those bolts, and that's the only way you can loosen and tighten these nuts up. That is a horrible design. I feel like the bolts should have been fixed or welded to the frame, but I guess I get if they snap, this is easier to replace, but it just sucks getting that box wrench in through here. But I was able to get it, and we'll get this bottom bolt on and one side will be done. All right guys, we got the two rear shocks on, and we got them set to number 4. We'll see how this goes. This one was stuck fully extended. You could not compress it. We had to drill that hole in there to release all the pressure and oil out of there.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Before I could compress it to get it off of there. And here's the new one. They look kind of fancy. Let's fix that boot. That boot looking a little saggy on there, but hey. All right, guys, I just got the FAPO P3 8-stage adjustable shocks on, and the manufacturer sent me a recommendation to set these to 4. So I have all 4 of them set to number 4. Fronts and rears, and so far the ride seems good, but I need to go over some rough terrain before we can really get an eyeball on this shit. We're gonna go up this street, and it's kind of a rough road. Well, there's a couple of rough roads around here that we can go down. Better, but as I was saying, the rear shocks, they had no resistance. You know, like, I mean, there was resistance, but what you can tell, there was no longer, they were no longer like activating. So it probably dampened the ride a little bit, but not much. But the front shocks, they were, I've never seen this before. The front shocks were pressurized to the max extension, and you couldn't compress them by hand. With the new shocks, you know, you can push them in and pull them out. The old shocks that were on the front, you could not compress them. for nothing. It's like something blew up inside there and kept the pressure on full blast all the time. So that explains why my ride was really bouncy. I had to drill a hole in both of the front shocks, one little pinhole in each shock, and the pressure just sprayed out, man. There was a shit ton of pressure built up in there. I don't know if it's from the heat or what. Okay, so here's a little bumpy road. It's still bumpy, but it seems to stabilize a lot better than with the horn shocks. So I have really nothing to compare these shocks to, but for $230 or $250, what I paid for all four, I would say this isn't bad considering some shocks are $70, $80 a piece. Get all four shocks for $250. Not a bad deal. Definitely rides better than the worn out shocks. So if your shocks are completely busted, these are definitely an improvement. But as far as comparing them to a rough country or any other shock, I can't compare, because I would have to have each individual shock to, experience them in order to compare them. All I can compare is the old worn out Rubicon Express ones, and yeah, this is definitely an improvement. Alright guys, here's the front view. I thought I was recording, but I wasn't. Somehow I switched it to photo mode or something. So we're going to get a front view this way. But I will say this ride is more, it's kind of stiff. Floor on this is kind of stiff. It's definitely not a soft ride. But it also, I would say it's kind of like if you've driven a car that's been lowered, this kind of feels like that. The ride is smooth, but if you hit bumps, it's pretty stiff. It's not soft like a Kia Sorento or a Honda Odyssey. So we're gonna go a little bit more, and then we're gonna park this baby. I think we're gonna leave this on settings 4. Just till they get broke in. We'll get them broke in. So we'll probably ride on setting 4 for a month, and then we may try a different setting, a soft